Imagine waking up tomorrow, looking in the mirror, and realizing your face has completely physically changed. Like it's morphed to reflect every secret you've ever kept and every true feeling you've ever hidden from the world.
Right, which is a terrifying thought for most of us.
Oh, absolutely terrifying. But according to a really controversial spiritual framework we're exploring today, that kind of radical physical transparency is exactly what the universe demands of us if we ever want to reach a state of paradise.
Yeah, and it completely flips how we usually think about, spiritual progress.
Yeah.
I mean, we often assume that reaching a higher state of being is about adding things to our lives.
Like more knowledge or discipline.
Exactly, or learning these really complex meditation techniques. But the philosophy we are dissecting today suggests that the ultimate goal is entirely about stripping things away, tearing down our social conditioning until there is absolutely nothing left to hide.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping into a highly unique set of sources today. Specifically, we're looking at excerpts from a philosophical and spiritual text titled, How Can You Count as Having Crossed the River, Part 2.
Right, written by a figure known as Diaform Buddha.
Yeah, and this is a core piece of literature related to the Lifechanyuan movement. So our mission today is to map out this text's really fascinating framework on human consciousness, how we express love, and the specific hurdles, what this worldview calls the river, that humanity has to cross to reach a higher state of existence.
And before we go any further, we should probably establish some ground rules for this discussion.
Yeah, definitely.
Because this source material involves some highly specific and honestly sometimes unconventional spiritual and ideological beliefs, particularly regarding utopian communities, the transformation of consciousness, and the role of sexual love.
Right.
So we are maintaining strict impartiality throughout this deep dive.
Exactly. We are not here to endorse these viewpoints, nor are we here to critique them or take sides. Our goal is strictly to objectively report and unpack the author's unique worldview for you.
Think of us as your tour guides through a very specific, fascinating ideological landscape. We're just here to help you understand the internal logic of the philosophy being presented.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the author starts by basically looking out the window and making this really striking comparison between the natural world and humanity.
Yeah, the opening argument is pretty profound. Under this framework, nature is absolutely full of beauty, and crucially, that beauty is completely open.
Right, like a mountain doesn't disguise its peaks.
Exactly. A blooming flower doesn't try to hide its petals, it just exists in its beauty. But mankind, on the other hand, actively hides its beautiful soul.
And the text frames this as a tragedy, right?
It's framed as a cosmic tragedy. The underlying logic here is that hiding our inner beauty actively discredits the creation of nature.
Wow. Discredits creation itself.
Yeah. It is as if the universe built this incredible, flawless architecture within the human soul. And out of shame or fear, we've just thrown a massive, ugly tarp over it.
And the framework explicitly links that hidden inner beauty to love.
It does. The premise is very straightforward. Where there is love, whether that's emotional affection or sexual love, there is intrinsic beauty.
But humanity refuses to exhibit this love freely.
Right. We bottle it up, we regulate it, we hide it.
Which sets up this incredible contrast with how the philosophy describes the higher heavenly realms. The source lays out this escalating scale of transparency, which is almost like moving up through different dimensions of vulnerability.
Yeah, it's a very clear progression. First, you have the 1,000-year world in the heavenly kingdom. In this realm, love is manifested freely. Nobody conceals it.
So you feel an affection for someone, you express it instantly, no second guessing.
Exactly. No social anxiety, no holding back. But then the framework pushes the concept even further.
Right, to the 10,000-year world.
Yes. And according to the source, the celestial beings here are entirely naked.
Wait, entirely naked? Like, literally? Because I read that section and thought, man, that is quite a leap from just being emotionally honest.
It is a huge leap. But based on the broader context of the Lifechanyuan movement, it is meant quite literally.
Wow, okay.
The philosophy views physical clothing as the ultimate symbol of spiritual concealment. So you go from emotional transparency in the first realm to total physical and emotional transparency in the second.
And then there's the final realm, right?
Yeah, finally you reach the Elysium world, specifically the celestial island continent, where super celestial beings are united as one whole. Complete unification.
Like zero separation between individuals.
Exactly. The core principle driving this whole progression is that concealment is the absolute antithesis of the divine. The more you hide your true nature, the lower your realm of existence.
So the more you reveal, the closer you are to the Elysium ideal.
Right.
Okay, so assuming this totally open expression of love and beauty is the ideal state, what exactly is the holdup? I mean, if hiding our love is a tragedy that distorts our souls and keeps us locked out of paradise, why is it our default setting in the human world?
What's fascinating here is how the author diagnoses that exact problem. The focus shifts from the beautiful, open, heavenly ideal to the really gritty psychological reality of human behavior.
Yeah, the source identifies a list of specific maladies of human love.
Right. And the core issue, which they identify as point 5 of an 8-point list, is described like this. All wear a mask and love like a thief. Your words contradict what you think, and your words are inconsistent with your actions.
Love like a thief. I was just struck by how heavy and evocative that phrase is.
It really is. Think about the mechanics of a thief. A thief operates entirely in the shadows.
Right, creeping around.
Yeah, and a thief might acquire something incredibly beautiful or valuable, but they can never display it openly. They have to hoard it away.
Keep it a secret.
Exactly. Always looking over their shoulder in fear of being discovered. And this worldview argues that this is precisely how humans experience love. We feel it, but we are terrified of showing it.
We're constantly calculating the risks of vulnerability. Like, we say we're fine when we're hurt. We act aloof when we're actually deeply invested.
We're constantly managing our image and guarding our true feelings.
And these behaviors aren't just treated as minor character flaws, right? Like, oh, well, everybody's trust issues. They constitute a massive spiritual barrier. This is the great river mentioned in the title of the text.
Yes, it's this raging, impassable barrier that blocks our path to becoming celestial beings. The river is the perfect metaphor for the sum total of our deceptive, masked human behaviors.
Right.
And the source lays out a very practical, almost logistical reason for why crossing this river is absolutely mandatory. It poses a hypothetical scenario.
Oh, yeah, the management hypothetical.
Right. Imagine if you took a regular human being, someone who still wears a mask and loves like a thief, and you put them in charge of the heavenly kingdom.
It would be a disaster. The source literally asks, if everyone in the heavenly kingdom behaves as if they were in the human world, can the system of the heavenly kingdom be maintained?
And the implied answer is a resounding no. Think of a utopia as an incredibly complex machine that runs entirely on the frictionless oil of absolute transparency.
Now, that's a great way to picture it.
If you introduce human deception, hidden agendas, and masked emotions into that machine, it's like throwing sand into the gears. The system of heaven fundamentally cannot compute deception.
Right. You cannot maintain a utopia if it is populated by people who are secretly hiding their true selves. The whole society would just fracture.
Exactly. And we see the real-world application of this logic in the text itself. The Lifechanyuan movement is actively trying to build a fairyland here on Earth.
They're attempting to create a physical community that acts as a localized version of that thousand-year world where love is freely manifested.
But the author is remarkably pragmatic about the danger involved in this experiment. The source acknowledges that if you just gather a group of people together to live in a commune, but none of them have successfully crossed the river, if their internal programming hasn't changed, the external environment doesn't matter. It will fail.
It's essentially an issue of system compatibility. Imagine getting a group of people together, setting up a utopian society on a pristine, deserted island. You recruit 100 people who all verbally agree that modern society is toxic and they want to live in pure harmony.
Sounds great on paper.
Right. But if those 100 people bring all their mainland psychological baggage with them, the gossiping, the insecurities, the habit of smiling to someone's face and complaining behind their back, you haven't built a utopia at all.
You've just relocated the problem.
Exactly. The text argues you've just created another version of the human world, or even worse, a snobbish group that arrogantly thinks they are better than everyone else while operating on the exact same flawed software.
You cannot change the environment without first changing the people. If the internal state remains masked, the external community will inevitably rot, regardless of how idealistic the foundational charter was.
Okay, so if the stakes are this astronomical and knowing that wearing masks is actively ruining our chance at this heavenly fairyland, why is it so incredibly hard to just stop? I mean, if we know we're doing it, why can't we just decide to take the mask off today?
Well, the framework offers a really surprising answer to that. It argues that our deception is actually not our fault.
I found that so shocking when I read it. It's not our fault that we are lying, hiding, and loving like thieves.
According to this specific worldview, no. We are bound by a deeply ingrained, mistaken human consciousness that was formed thousands of years ago.
Wow.
The text quotes the proverb, "Habit is the second nature." We've been operating with these masks for so many generations that hiding our true selves isn't a conscious, malicious choice anymore. It is our default, hardwired programming.
And the author uses this really grounded, unexpected analogy to explain this feeling. It completely caught me off guard. They compare this ancient, mistaken consciousness to driving a car.
Yes, the driving analogy is brilliant.
Because the author lived in Zimbabwe, right,
Right.
where traffic flows on the left side of the road, and they say, you live there, you adapt to it, your muscle memory learns how to navigate intersections, and it becomes totally natural.
Right.
But then the author says when returning to China and having to drive on the right side of the road, it feels completely terrifying and awkward.
And the crucial takeaway from that driving analogy is all about cognitive dissonance. The problem isn't that the left side of the road is inherently evil and the right side is inherently good.
Right, the road is just a road.
Exactly. The profound discomfort comes from the failure to transform our consciousness. Your brain and your muscle memory have literally been wired over years to expect danger and safety to come from specific directions. So when the rules change entirely, your nervous system rebels.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the author admits that this transformation is painfully difficult, even for the most devoted believers. The source talks about the backyard of Lifechanyuan, which is described as a specific venue for self-cultivation and the refinement of consciousness.
Right, so these are the highly motivated people who have actively signed up for this utopian vision.
Yeah, and yet the author looks at them and asks, are we capable of love even in this venue? The text points out that even these dedicated cultivators are too scared to simply say they love each other. They find it incredibly difficult to accept it when other people honestly display the beauty of their souls.
It just highlights the sheer gravity of this ancient consciousness. I mean, you can put people in a dedicated, supportive environment, give them the explicit goal of reaching the 1,000-year world, and tell them point blank to take off their masks.
And they still freeze up.
They freeze. Because taking off the mask feels exactly like swerving into oncoming traffic. Every primal instinct in their body is screaming that radical honesty is dangerous, that they will be exposed or judged or destroyed by the vulnerability.
It's like creating a commune of hardcore spiritual warriors who want to unlock the deepest secrets of the cosmos, but they all freeze up like middle schoolers at a dance when they actually have to express a real emotion.
That's exactly what it's like.
It shows that if a habit is this deeply hardwired into our collective human psyche, you can't just wish it away. Breaking it requires a massive disruptive catalyst. So who or what is supposed to be helping these cultivators actually transform their consciousness?
The source material introduces a very specific figure designed to be that catalyst, and it's referred to as the angel of sexual love.
Okay, that is definitely a phrase that demands an explanation.
Yeah, it stands out.
Yeah.
So within this framework, sexual love isn't something to be transcended or ignored, which is how many traditional spiritualities treat it. Here, sexual love is viewed as the ultimate crucible for vulnerability.
Because it's where we're the most exposed.
Exactly. It is the moment where humans are most prone to wearing masks, harboring insecurities, and loving like a thief. Therefore, mastering it is the key to liberation.
Makes sense within the logic of the text.
Right. So this angel is sent explicitly to help transform the believer's consciousness in this specific, highly sensitive area. But the dynamic between the angel and the cultivators is really telling.
Yeah, the author notes that the angel knows how deeply traumatized humans are by their own conditioning. She knows that demanding sudden, unmasked intimacy is terrifying, so she attempts to accommodate them. The text says she lectures gently and lightly, being incredibly careful not to scare them away.
But even with all that tiptoeing around their fragile sensibilities, it doesn't work. The forum posts from the cultivators show that they are still, quote, frightened out of their wits.
The prospect of unmasked love is utterly terrifying to a consciousness built on thousands of years of concealment.
And this widespread panic leads the author to make a really sharp critique about how people generally approach spirituality and self-improvement.
So what does this all mean for the actual day-to-day practice of these believers? Because reading through this, the author seems deeply frustrated with how these cultivators are avoiding the real work.
Very frustrated. The text points out that most people who get into self-cultivation love to focus on the spectacular theoretical stuff.
Right, the grand mysteries.
Yeah, they want to discuss unfathomable magical arts and abstruse mysteries. They want to debate the complex cosmology of the universe. But, the author notes, they turn a completely blind eye to the obvious everyday trifles.
The mundane stuff.
Exactly. They ignore the realities of eating, drinking, sleeping, and daily chores.
It is the ultimate spiritual bypass. I mean, it is infinitely easier to sit in a circle debating the nature of the cosmos than it is to just be radically openly honest with your partner about your feelings over breakfast.
Oh, 100%. Discussing magical arts is an intellectual escape. It allows you to feel incredibly spiritually advanced without ever having to risk the vulnerability of changing your actual behavior.
But the text states unequivocally that ignoring the trifles of daily life is a massive mistake, a total misunderstanding of what cultivation is.
According to this framework, true spiritual refinement isn't happening in the clouds. It is happening at the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
It happens in how you speak to a neighbor. It happens in those countless micro moments throughout the day where you have a choice to either put the mask back on or leave it off.
Which brings us to the author's ultimate rule for navigating this philosophy action over words. The source insists that you cannot judge someone's spiritual progress by listening to them talk.
Words mean nothing if the action doesn't follow.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how beautifully they can describe the 10,000-year world or debate theology. Cultivation is judged entirely by actions. You must put what you learn to practical use in your daily life. The text literally says, if he cannot put what he has learned to actual use, he might as well not have learned it.
It is a brutally pragmatic approach to spirituality, and it culminates in the text's final and arguably most extreme claim.
This part is wild.
It is. The framework offers a literal litmus test to diagnose whether or not someone has successfully transformed their consciousness and crossed the river.
The author asserts that there is a direct, undeniable mechanical link between your inner spiritual state and your outer physical reality. The text argues that if you have successfully cultivated a perfect non-material structure of life, meaning your soul is completely unmasked, your love is freely given, and you harbor absolutely zero deception, then that internal perfection will inevitably manifest as a perfect physical outer appearance.
To understand the how of this, think of the soul as the architectural blueprint and the physical body as the house built from it.
Okay.
If the blueprint is full of errors, contradictory lines, and structural impossibilities, like stairs leading nowhere, the physical house is going to look disjointed and structurally unsound. You cannot build a flawless house from a deeply flawed blueprint.
So the inner flaws create outer flaws.
Right. The text says, if the appearance is ugly, the structure must be flawed. Deception and wearing masks create profound spiritual friction. And in this philosophy, that friction degrades your non-material structure, which in turn literally degrades your physical form.
So the exterior is simply a projection of the interior structure. The physical appearance becomes the ultimate, undeniable diagnostic tool. You don't need a spiritual guru or a grand master to tell you if you've successfully crossed the river and shed your masks. You literally just need to look in a mirror.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, crossing the river in this text means achieving a state of absolute frictionless congruence. There's no longer a millimeter of gap between who you are on the inside and what you project on the outside. And the author concludes that if someone has actually achieved this state, interacting with them wouldn't be a chore filled with social anxiety. It would be a deeply joyful, pleasant experience. If an entire community achieved this congruence, it would feel exactly like living in the heavenly kingdom. No hidden agendas, no masked feelings, just open, honest existence.
It is a breathtaking, albeit intense, vision when you map out the entire framework. We've journeyed from the tragic idea that mankind is hiding its beautiful soul behind masks and stared down the turbulent river of our ancient, hardwired habits of deception.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
We've explored how terrifying it is to break that cognitive dissonance, even when an angel is gently trying to guide the way.
Yeah.
And we've arrived at this vision of a transparent heavenly existence where your inner perfection is written right there on your face, plain for the entire world to see.
It challenges you to really reevaluate where the actual work of self-improvement takes place. It's not found in grand, abstract theories. It's found in the courage to be seen clearly in the most mundane, trivial moments of our lives.
That brings us to the end of our deep dive today. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over on your own. This framework insists that true cultivation is found in the trifles of daily life. and that our physical appearance is a direct, undeniable reflection of how openly we express our true selves. So, as you go about your everyday routine tomorrow, as you commute to work, answer mundane emails, or sit down for dinner, consider those little trifles. Notice the exact moments when you instinctively reach for that mask. And imagine just for a second if this philosophy were entirely, literally true. If your physical appearance were to suddenly shift tonight to perfectly reflect the hidden, non material structure of your soul, what would you look like in the mirror tomorrow morning?